order the February 19th Board of Aldermen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll turn my mic on so it's easier to hear me. Roll call, please.
Mayor Thornton?
I'm here.
Alderman Dimmitt?
Here.
Alderman Kramer?
Present.
Alderman Leahy? Alderman Lockmiller?
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Here.
Alderman Plufka?
Here.
Alderwoman Sims?
Here.
And Alderman Weggie.
Here.
All right. For those of you in the audience, Alderman Weggie is joining us live via this very exciting computer technology that we've implemented. So, item number 3 on the agenda is the approval of this evening's agenda. Are there any changes or amendments to the agenda? Alderman Weggie.
Yeah, just a quick question. Were we not able to get the swim club item onto the agenda tonight?
No.
Why not?
It went to planning and zoning last week, Wednesday, and I believe it's going to site plan on the 26th.
No. They gave it final approval on Wednesday.
Well, so Wednesday, this agenda is finalized Thursday. That would be an incredible turnaround for planning development staff to get it on this agenda. That's why. This agenda tonight.
Yeah, I'm aware of what agenda we got. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll deal with that later. So, any amendments to the agenda? Alderman Wiggie's not going to make a motion. All right. Any other amendments to the agenda? Any objection to approval by acclamation? Seeing none, it'll be approved by acclamation. Item number 4 on tonight's agenda is announcements, appointments, proclamations, and recognition. And tonight we have a really great presentation that's going to be made by the Brentwood Historical Society. I'll let the president of this Historical Society, Dan Fitzgerald, come up and make the presentation. And Dan, take it away.
Thank you. Good evening. So in conjunction with our centennial this year, we decided it would be cool to honor Brentwood residents who have lived in Brentwood for over 75 years. There's a few of them out there, some of whom are sitting right behind me. So 75 years ago would have been 1944. So what does Brentwood look like in 1944? Population is right around 5,000. Oscar Tuckett was the mayor. This city hall was about 9 years old. And the Board of Aldermen meetings were held upstairs, up the winding staircase in the front of the building. The library was at 2815 Brentwood, which is basically where Schnucks is. It was the old city hall. Brentwood kids went to Brentwood number 1, which is where Walgreens is. They went to Mark Twain. They went to Louverture, which was a school down in Evans Howard Place. And they went to the new Fraser Elementary School, which is since come and gone. And they went to the old St. Mary Magdalene, which is no longer here. There was no Brentwood Square. Brentwood Forest was 80 acres of woods. Most of the West End was still woods in 44. The current day Carl's was called the Good Food Drive-In. And here's one I thought was kind of interesting. On Brentwood Boulevard, there were over 50 residential homes. On Manchester, there was over 35 residential homes 75 years ago. Today, there are none on either one of those streets. So, very few of us were around in 1944. However, these 4 residents were. We had 5. One lady chose not to come up because she was a little scared about the weather. So we'll present her with her award at the next meeting. The first person I would like to recognize is Laren Langeth. Laren was born on Cecilia Avenue. He is Brentwood High School class of 62, the largest graduating class in the history of Brentwood High School, 128 kids. After he was married, he and his wife Joyce moved to Cecilia Avenue, a few blocks north of his original home, where they have lived for 50 years, right across the street from the lake. best view in town of one of the prettiest spots in Brentwood. The Historical Society would like to honor Laren Langeth for living in Brentwood 75 years. Laren? Next, we would like to recognize Regina Garr. Regina grew up on Hilton Avenue on the corner of Hilton and Harrison. Brentwood High School class of '58. After a few years of living in Audubon Park and on Pendleton, she and her husband moved to Florence Avenue, where she has lived for 51 years. One of the founders of our Historical Society, we honor Regina Garr tonight for living in Brentwood for 78 years. Regina? Next, we would like to honor Judy Litz. Judy, like many Brentwood residents, can call several Brentwood addresses home. She lived in several different places, among them, of course, Audubon Park. She is Brentwood High School class of 1955. Judy has lived at her current home on Lawn Avenue for 57 years. The Historical Society would like to honor Judy Litz for living in Brentwood for 78 years. Wow. And lastly, we would like to honor Wilma Knoll. Wilma has also lived at several different addresses in her time here in Brentwood, and at one point she was a neighbor of Rosemary Kornfeld, who was another one of our honorees who couldn't make it tonight. She is Brentwood High School class of 46. All right. Wilma currently lives on Mary Avenue, and the Historical Society would like to honor Wilma for living in Brentwood 83 years. Wow.
You may want to think about buying at that point. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Great, thanks, Dan.
I just want to say to all of our honorees, what a pleasure it is to have you in Brentwood. Us newcomers appreciate all that you've done for the city over the years, and I'm really impressed because I'll be very happy to be living anywhere for 75 years, much less one place. So thank you very much. Second up on proclamations and announcements. Oh, we don't have that. That's off. Yes? Yeah. Yeah, but it's they weren't prepared, so it's been postponed until the next meeting. I apologize. I should have said that while we were approving the agenda. All right. Item number 5 on the agenda is public hearings. We don't have any. That brings us to citizens' comments. If anyone would care to come forward and address the Board of Aldermen, you have at least 3 minutes to say your piece.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Sam Longstreth, 8734 Suburban Tracks. I own Brentwood Plastics, which is located at 8734 Suburban Tracks.
That microphone on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I will
there you go.
try to-
That's great.
Yes.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay. Brentwood Plastics is located at 8734 Suburban Tracks, and it is part of the Brentwood bound area west of Mary Avenue. The property is not part of the flood mitigation, it's part of the park area. I recently found out that my property and business are scheduled to be taken by eminent domain for Brentwood bound. Previously, it was my understanding that even though I'm located within the project area, I was not scheduled to be acquired by eminent domain. What changed was, what I found out that what changed was that the city felt that the bridge to be built across Deer Creek for the new bicycle path became too expensive because of the need to make the bridge compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. It now carries an $8 million price tag. So the city changed the bike path to go up Brentwood Boulevard and then back down into the project area by taking my property and a few others. The city's belief was apparently to save some money and thought that taking my property and my neighbors would be a cheaper alternative. This is a foolhardy decision, and I asked the city to reconsider and go back to their earlier plan. Why? First, my business is a manufacturing plant that converts plastics pellets into polyethylene film. You know it as the lowly trash bag, but we get much more sophisticated than that. Our films are used in a wide variety of applications: surgical drapes, ostomy bags. NASA uses our film to make space balloons. If you've ever bought a bag of potatoes, you've probably touched our film. We ship product all over the planet. We have large equipment in order to manufacture this. Some of it requires a 60-foot ceiling. To move our equipment would cost millions, more than what the real estate's worth. I don't believe you can appreciate what goes on in our building unless you see it yourselves. So I invite you to tour my facility. Please come in. I'll give you my card. Just call me and I'll show you around. Second, to relocate our property, we need a rail spur so that we can get our raw material. Rail spurs are really hard to find. We've got 21 employees, and relocating a bike path just to save some money, you're putting at risk jobs and this business. The city calls this piece of property blighted. It doesn't look blighted to me. Taking our property using eminent domain is just plain wrong. Eminent domain is nothing more than a fancy phrase for forcibly taking private property. I ask you to make the better business decision and go back to your earlier plan and build the bridge. That way you can have your product and my employees can have their jobs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you just leave that with the city clerk, she can make sure everybody gets a copy. Yep, thank you. Anyone else care to come forward and address the board? Mr. Horton, there's nobody in front of you. Go ahead.
Did I get it right this time?
What's that? Yeah, I think
Got
so.
the thing. Mike Horton, 2527 Kentland Drive. I don't see this on the agenda, but Alderman Weege had posted on Nextdoor just the other day that he was intending to introduce a change in the compensation package for our Board of Aldermen.
On the agenda.
But,
10B.
is it? Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna
Oh, it
say,
says old
I think
business.
it's there under old business. Yeah.
Okay.
It is, 10B.
All right.
Yep.
So I'm here to tell you, do not change your compensation package. I am perfectly fine with you all making the money that you do. I don't think that a lot of people realize, just talking to my mother-in-law today, and she brought this up. You serve on committees. You take your time. Alderman Dimmitt, I do know, and Alderman Plufka, for example, went over the whole Better Together proposal. And they do that on, I won't really call it their own time. They are being paid, obviously, the $600 a month. But you all get out, you answer questions, you respond to your constituents, you show up when somebody's sump pump is made somebody else's driveway half an inch of a sheet of ice. So $600 is really not that much money, to be honest. It being tax time and all of us doing taxes, I'm going to guess that probably all of you lose at least a quarter of that $600 in taxes. So now you're down to, if I do my math correctly, $450. $450 for listening to your constituents complain, looking into their problems, being bashed on social media. So I think you should just keep it where it is. It's perfectly fine. Like I said, my mother-in-law, who broke her shoulder and was unable to be here tonight, once I broke it down to her that it was only $600 a month minus taxes, she immediately said, "Oh, that's not that much." So I'm perfectly fine with you keeping it the way it is, despite what people say on social media. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to come forward and address the board? Going once, going twice. Any member of the board care to respond to any of the remarks that have been made? I will go ahead and respond to the gentleman that spoke from Brentwood Plastics. And you know, I hear what you said loud and clear. What I would say to you in response is there haven't been any decisions made on this yet. The designs for that portion of the project are still what I would call relatively preliminary. I don't think that you know, I don't know where you got that information, but you know, that's not to say that it won't happen. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that the designs for that whole portion of the project, that's the portion of the project that kind of comes last. And so we're much further along in the flood containment part of the project and much further along on the Manchester Road part of the project. And that part of the project is still relatively preliminary. So I hear your concern loud and clear. What I would say is we're probably a little premature to have, you know, a spirited debate, or I don't even want to say an argument, but a spirited debate over it. So, but it definitely hear what you're saying loud and clear, and you know, at the appropriate time, would love to have that discussion. But I think for us to start, well, for anyone up here to start that discussion right now would be definitely premature until, you know, sort of we have a more definite plan in place, and then we can start to talk about, you know, what the pros and cons are. So. Like I said, that's not to say that it won't happen. I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply saying that at this point, you know, I hate to say don't worry about it, but to some extent, you know, it's a little premature to worry about it. We haven't really gotten to that point yet. So I definitely appreciate your input, definitely appreciate you being here, and invite you to come back when things get more definite. If they're not to your liking, we definitely can have that discussion, but I think that's what I would say in response to that at this point in time. So, anybody else? No one? Okay. That brings us to, whoops, I ran down my agenda too quickly. Brings us to the item number 7, which is reports of aldermen and committees. In my report, I just have one thing to mention tonight. The Brentwood Century Foundation is sponsoring a panel discussion on the Evans Place neighborhood on Sunday at 4 o'clock at the rec center. I'm actually going to miss my favorite basketball team's game and come to the panel discussion because I'm so interested in this topic. So I think it'll be very, very interesting. I encourage everyone to attend if they get the chance. I'm really looking forward to it. So 4 o'clock Sunday the 24th. At the rec center. So that's what I've got on my report. Alderman Dimmitt.
No report.
Alderman Kramer.
No report at this time, Your Honor.
Alderman Leahy.
No report.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Well, thank you, Mayor. To piggyback on what you just said, also the Brentwood Century Foundation is starting to sell tickets for Brentwood night at the ballpark down at the Busch Stadium. Tickets are $25. You can go online to brentwood.org and buy your tickets there. Also, regarding the event, Brentwood Century Foundation, I just want to extend invites to city employees, contractors, vendors, and their families. Everyone's welcome to attend this and any of the events we're having this year. And employees are always part of our community, so we'd like to make sure they show up. One last thing on our Ward 3 meeting will be Tuesday the 26th over at the Rec Center. That's Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to point out that employees will not receive overtime for showing up for any. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. You probably won't, but anyway. Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes, two items. First, the Brentwood Forest Condo Association has asked its building and grounds people to plant in shades of purple and gold this summer to go along with the Centennial and the Brentwood high colors. So if you drive through, look for those at all the entrances and some other spots on the grounds. And the other announcement is a Ward 4 meeting, the same night as Ward 3, next Tuesday. Ours is at 6 o'clock, and it's at the Brentwood Forest Clubhouse, and everyone's welcome.
Thank you. Alderman Plefka.
Thank you. Public safety has not met, didn't meet in December, didn't meet in January. We are going to meet in February. We're going to be on February 27th at 5:30 in this room.
In this room?
In this room, I
Oh,
believe.
okay.
I believe it's this room. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Alderman Sims.
No report.
And Alderman Wege.
Just like to take this opportunity to wish all the engineers in the room a happy Engineers Week. So good job, Dan.
Okay.
Special time of year.
Right. I'm sure it is. Do they have a physicist week? I want to know. All right. Let's see. Item number 8 on tonight's agenda. We have the city administrator's report. Madam City Administrator.
Craig Schultz.
Hi, Craig Schiller with Navigate Building Solutions. I'll be providing the Brentwood Bound City Administrator update for February 19th. The first category is investment costs. No recent investment costs have been spent to date. The next category is direct project costs. Recent direct project costs include the Deer Creek Flood Mitigation Design and Engineering and the MPAC Design Support. Total spent to date is $2,047,098.53. Finally, the recent indirect or sunk costs include property legal descriptions and project management costs. Total spent to date is $1,633.78. Any questions?
So it looks like we're in for about $7 million to date.
Correct.
All right. Any questions about that? Thank you. Madam City Administrator, back to you.
Thank you, Mayor Thornton. In your packet today, we included a procedure on live streaming and recording of meetings. If you look up and you see all the improvements that you approved in the 2018 budget for an upgrade of the city's audio and video system, and we just thought as a housekeeping item that it would be proper for us to put on the 2 entrances into this room the procedure so that everybody that walks into the room that might desire to walk up to the podium and speak during the meeting is aware that this meeting is being recorded, it's being live streamed, and it's being uploaded onto the Brentwood YouTube channel. Also recommending that going forward, perhaps the mayor or the chair of this meeting would read at the beginning of the meeting that this meeting is being live streamed on the city's YouTube channel and is being recorded. The recording will be made available on the city's YouTube channel. Please be aware that your presence may be recorded. So we just wanted to make sure as a housekeeping item that everybody knows this meeting is being recorded going forward.
Thank you. Any questions? Alderman Plefka.
So somebody who wants to make a citizen comment to this board but doesn't necessarily want to be broadcast on YouTube or live streamed, is there a process for them being able to do that, or they have to either put up with the process or not participate?
Yes.
Okay. That's a question I have.
And just to be clear, right, so I typically tell people, please state your name and address for the record. We don't ever deny anybody.
Just says no.
Yeah, it's a formality, right? So that if we need to go back and follow up with somebody, we have a way to get in touch with them. So, but if somebody does not state their name and or address for the record, we do not deny them the right to speak.
But their image.
Yeah. There's no procedure for them to remove the image, and it's because it's an open public meeting, and we're broadcasting it as a matter of course.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Alderman Leahy.
Are we by state statute or any type of procedure required to post out that it's being broadcast?
Doing this so that everybody that walks in here is aware of that.
Thus, your 2 notices on the entrance door
Right.
should be sufficient. I think going and reading the extra things might just be overkill. That's an opinion.
I was going to suggest that maybe we could put it on the podium right there, it's on the face of the podium. So when they walk up to the podium, it says, you are being recorded right now. If you don't like it, don't speak.
We will do that.
That might be easier to accomplish.
But yeah, actually, probably what we should do is get just a more formal sign that's a little more permanent, since we're going to be doing this from now on. So yeah,
We'll do that.
perfect, excellent. Anything else on that? Anything else, Madam City Administrator? Okay. Well, I'm gonna follow up on something I just texted you, and I apologize to the board. I don't normally text during meetings, but is there any chance that we can get a copy of that site plan?
I have asked Lisa to bring it in here.
Okay, so is she around? I didn't see
Yes,
her.
she
Okay,
is.
yes, fantastic. We don't need that many. We don't need copies or anything.
Right, just the
one copy would be sufficient.
Right.
Yeah. I apologize to the board. I'm trying to Well, I'll explain when we get to that part, if we get to that part. Let's see. Item number 9 on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda tonight are reports of standing committees, the minutes of the January 7th and 17th meetings, the warrant list for the operating funds and for the series of series 2019 series certificates of participate. That's 2018 series of certificates of participation. A special use permit for St. Mary Magdalene School. I assume that's for alcohol.
Yes.
And a resolution for a memorandum of understanding with the school district for the Brentwood Police Resource Office. Anybody like to remove anything or have any questions about the consent agenda? Alderman Kramer.
Your Honor, just a clarification. We have the 2018 and 19 items of the COPs on the, is that correct?
That is correct.
So
Oh, I see. So, yes, there's
There's still expenses from last year.
clarification.
yeah, it's just that we were, yeah, that's fine. I got confused. We typically refer to them as the Series 2018 series, but these are expenses that'll be booked to 2019 from the 2018 series. I understand now. Now that we've got the mayor sorted out. Alderman Leahy.
On the consent agenda, the resolution for extending the resource officer for the schools, if we pass this, there is no real ending date because it automatically renews every year.
The 3-year agreement with 2 one-year extensions.
Thank you. That's where I wanted to go.
Any other questions about the consent agenda? Very good. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Leahy, seconded by Alderman Lockmiller. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill, Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
All right, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. Item number 10 on the agenda is old business. Item 10A is resolution number 1084.2, sewer lateral repair. I understand that I missed a spirited discussion last week, and I'm so glad that you all decided to postpone it over and so I could participate this week. Quite frankly, I guess at this point, since it was postponed, I believe there's already been a motion to adopt, yes? Has that motion not been made? I wasn't here. I'm sorry. I wasn't the chairman, so I don't know. So I'd like to start this discussion or whatever we're going to do with a motion to adopt Resolution 1084.2. If somebody would care to make it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right. Moved by Alderman Plufka, seconded by Alderman Lockmiller to adopt Resolution 1084.2. Now, discussion is appropriate. Alderman Kramer.
May I read the synopsis?
You may.
In case anyone didn't remember from the last time, the sewer lateral repair program has experienced financial challenges due to reduced revenues and increased expenditures. For the fiscal year 2016 through 2018, expenditures have exceeded those revenues taken in. The recommendations were made to modify the repair program to conserve monies for repairs only and eliminate reimbursement of cabling and cleaning expenses, as well as reduce the existing cost ceiling to extend funds through the calendar year based on the average volume of repair needs. Resolution 1084.2.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt? Alderwoman Sims.
I am the one that gave the full-throated opposition to reducing or otherwise changing the sewer lateral policy. I still think that we can afford it, and I still oppose it. I understand I tend to lose footing every time this comes up before the board. But, if this is adopted, I would hope that we look for ways, and I don't know if that is something through the municipal league to increase what is assessed for this program in order to accommodate, this program, because I think that this will pose a hardship to people who have an unanticipated expense for a sewer lateral. I have only encountered bills for these things. I happened to try a case on a sewer lateral that, that one was $40,000, which was a bad example, but I think they tend to be pretty expensive. So if I lose this battle tonight, I'd like to win the war later with exploring what we can do to, change what's assessed. But I'm still voting no.
Alderwoman O'Neill. You want to hit your button there?
Sorry. In thinking about the comments some 2 weeks ago, I'm guessing that perhaps professionally, Alderwoman Sims sees the tip of the iceberg, the cases that are really expensive. And my question is for Dan, if he could tell us, do you have any sense of a proportion of what percentage of cases might well go over this 3,200 limit?
Actually, the engineer and me already did that, but I didn't include it in here. I did some pie charts. So of the different repairs that we did with Pipe Solutions, as the example, there were 42 cases. There were 2 that were above the 7,250. So those people had to pay the additional, but we comped them up to the 7,250. So of that, the wide majority fell underneath the 7,250. Looking at it, I used a break point before I figured out 3,500 to 5,000. So if you did 5,000, there were 84% of the cases would have been greater than the 5,000, but not by much. Usually they were like 5,100, 5,200. There's a lot of them that are small, but they tend to be closer to the 3,000, 3,500. But there's another little sliver of that pie, like the middle portion of the pie, that would fall in between 5,000 and 7,250. So by changing this, you're right, there's going to be an overwhelming majority are going to be over the 3,500. But, we can play around with the data and represent that. But what I also included in here, though, was going back in time. I'd gone to 2013, and I was able to find some old paper budget books with actual numbers, and I went back even further, all the way to 2009, because everybody explained it to me that we always had money, and it's like, well, I don't know if that's true. I mean, that's conjecture. So I actually found the real actuals, and there were 6 years out of the 10 where it was actually you spent more than you took in. So you can see in 2009, we only charged $28, and then that didn't do it. So then we bumped it up to 40, and then 40 was kind of close. You did that for 2 years, and then by 2012, it bumped all the way up to 50, and we've been stuck there because that's the maximum we can charge, is the 50. So it's not like we're unique. There's other cities that are facing it too. So that's why I tried to include in the memo. They're basically spending more than they're taking in.
So the odds of somebody with a single-family home having this problem is that they are not going to have to pay much more. The city will cover most of it.
The 3,500, I'd say probably half the time they'll be covered, but the other half they would probably not.
Pay a bit more.
At least the first 3,500. The other option would be is if you did a cost share, like Webster Groves, Kirkwood, they do a cost share, but you always have to pay something, whether it's 70-30, 80-20, and I know we talked about it in Public Works, and that wasn't something that was popular.
Thank you.
Alderman Leahy.
I assume that when we do budgets from here on out, since we have the ruling from the city attorney, that the excess funds in the account each year would go back towards paying back the fees that we've expended or pulled from the general revenue to pay things off, and that part of the reduction in certain cost ceiling is to try to develop that reserve to at least go back and pay off that bill?
Yes.
So with Dan's new figures and stuff, I assume we'll get something at Public Works to kind of get us some idea of what we're looking at in the way of gross costs to date? Would that be possible?
I'm not
That's
sure I
three-
understand the question.
We have a meeting in about 3 weeks.
Yes,
With Dan's new data,
right.
6 of the 10 years not having enough funds to cover, can we get a better handle on what we owe
Oh,
back
it's in
to
his
general
memo.
revenue?
He can speak to that tonight.
Yeah,
I mean,
whenever
at one figure, we are looking at 90,000.
Oh, gosh, no, it's more than that.
yeah, it was more than that. I know. Speaking with the finance director, she had a closer number on that. I know that just in the 10 years worth of data that I had, it was around minus 176,000. But I know we had some years prior to what I found that were actually positive. So I believe it was still over $100,000 in the hole, in the red that you would have to come up with.
Because we do have to repay that money to the general treasury.
Correct. That was the legal opinion that I put in here. I paraphrased it, but yeah, the explanation that general funds could be used to supplement the shortfall, but eventually they have to be paid back with interest.
During the budget process.
Alderman Lockmiller.
I sympathize with Alderwoman Sims. I sit on a almost 100-year-old lateral myself, and every time the subject comes up here, I hear a big sucking sound out of my wallet. But there are, there's insurance policies you can pick up to kind of make up the difference from now, and then someday when either the state legislature or our own balance gets back into par, we can look at readjusting this, but we're just trying to keep the thing afloat as it is right now. Thank you.
Alderman Dimmitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. The first is at Public Works, I thought we talked about trying to have some program in place where we would educate the public that this is happening.
Bye-bye.
Lost Brandon.
That we would try to educate the public about the possibility of there being some insurance policies out there and encourage them to purchase that. Is that something that can be accomplished through Nextdoor, or I don't know if we have to budget for that, or is that just something that would just be?
We can include it in the newsletter, Nextdoor, website, YouTube, so there are many different avenues that the city can use to educate.
And then the
residents.
other question, or this is a question, is what would be the effective date of this change? Would this be effective going back to January 1st, or is it effective to date on? Because up until this point, my understanding is that the cap is at $7,250.
That's correct.
And this would change it to $3,500. So would that be effective immediate, or is there an effective date on this?
My opinion was that you would move it forward like March 1 or whatever made sense. That there's only like 2 that are backlogged on our list, so I thought we'll get rid of those. They're under the old program, and then starting on a future date, then everyone from this point forward, it's under the new program.
Yeah, I didn't know if the Public Works Committee discussed that.
I guess I was just thinking to become effective upon passing of this resolution would be the date it would be implemented.
Yeah.
Anybody that's made a claim before this, they're under the old program, and anybody who makes a claim tomorrow is under the new program.
Well, Section 4 reads, "The resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage."
Fair enough. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. Director Dan, is it possible some of the data that you uncovered was skewed by the fact that the city engaged in the practice at certain points of having employees from the city on the payroll of the actual program? And because of that drainage, if you were to characterize it, or accounting method, as someone else might put it, perhaps that contributed to or affected the shortage or lack of revenues left
They
over.
weren't always in there. I know if you look at that, it's got the Like if you look, yeah, salaries full-time, it's in there like 09, 2010, but then there's also things in there like longevity that didn't always appear. Sometimes it does. The thing that I did note though is the cleaning and the cabling though, that's on average like $40,000. So that's been a drain. Nobody else offered it, you know. If you'd cut it short a few years ago, that's money that could have been used for actual repairs or maybe keeping it from going as far in the red as what it did. I don't know the actual accounting behind how they came up with the salaries. I just know I only reported from the budget books. Whatever it says is actual, that's the way I cut and pasted, put it in there, and tried to graph it and show myself, like, what do these bars look like, you know, revenue versus expenditures.
I think it was creative accounting at that time. And Your Honor, just if I could here, my hope is in the future, I'm assuming this is going to get passed, that perhaps there's a chance for the program to get more on a funded and sturdy foundation. The wipes versus the defective lines, I know the Public Works Committee discussed that at one point, and it would be nice if there was a way to cover the defective lines. We are, after all, Tree City USA, and with one of the Tree City USA designates, and so with all of the routes that are going into some of these lines, some of those lines could be taken care of if we have the funds in the future. The wipes I totally understand, and also the folks that use these services 2 or 3 or 4 times a year, that gets to be a little bit troublesome and burdensome for us. I also hope that we can put a resolution forward, Your Honor, as I think was mentioned here tonight, to the legislature to raise that $50. It's just an antiquated number at this point, and I'm hopeful that the passage tonight will at least allow us to continue the service until, is the language in there a cutoff when the money runs out and then they go on to a waiting list? No.
No, it would, I mean, we really didn't address that. It's not addressed in the resolution. It was addressed by Mr. O'Keefe at the last meeting, who recommended that when the budget time rolls around, if the city has supplied funds to the program, then the program should issue a note back to the city with interest that's payable. So I think that procedure will be followed going forward. So, but I'm not sure that's the best way to do it, to be perfectly honest, because, you can run yourself some pretty significant deficits, over time. And if you never keep track of the service as you're providing it, and then you run a deficit every year, you're essentially running a deficit you'll have no hope of being repaid.
Your Honor, did you suggest at one time, though, to just have a cutoff, and at that point, service would stop for the year?
So I have a question, and then I have a few thoughts for the board on this, just by way of, hopefully sharing some ideas I've had over a while. The first question for Dan is, did the data indicate, Dan, and I know there are a number of cases where we've done lateral lines that are under driveways, for example, under sidewalks, under retaining walls. Did the data indicate any percentage of cost that was used for those types of repairs, or does that not count in some of those repair costs?
Yeah, the reporting that I had was, the only details I have are for the last 2 years that I've been keeping it. But prior to that, usually the reports didn't have a lot of detail, whether there was a wall or a driveway. There's no sketch. There's really not.
And what I'm wondering is if on some of the more expensive ones, if some of the cost, the cost of PVC pipe hasn't changed much.
Right.
Perhaps the cost of excavating and the labor has, but I'm wondering if some of the higher cost repairs aren't due to factors that aren't directly related to sewer repair, for example.
That is true. There were some. I know there was one in particular on York Drive. It was in a driveway, and the driveway, that's one of the ones that drove it over $7,250.
Right.
But the resident paid the contractor the difference.
Yeah. So, those situations seem to me like, okay, it's bad luck that your sewer lateral is under your driveway, but I'm not one who would be in favor of pouring somebody a new driveway. I'll happily supply them a new sewer lateral out of the program funds if that's, but when it comes to repairing that driveway or even tearing it up, you have to give me access to it. It's your property. It's not my property. So, but that's a minor point. I guess what I'd like to point out is some math. if the average cost of a sewer repair is $3,500, let's say, and that sounds to me, what the data is telling us is that's a pretty fair average cost. If you pay $50 a year, it's going to take you 70 years to pay for your sewer lateral repair. Well, we just met the 4 people that have lived in Brentwood for 70 years. So my point is this, folks. It is an insurance program, but it's an insurance program that's being run on a very small sample. I mean, we've only got 2,000 homes in Brentwood, and they're all pretty old. So, you know, in some sense, it's an insurance program that doesn't have a law of large numbers that an insurance program relies on to run. And so, you know, it's a bad selecting pool of risk that we're insuring. And in that case, I'm not, you know, I think I tend to view it as more of a helping hand, right? Not a solution, not a complete solution. It's a helping hand to ensure that, you know, people who need it are able to get the help they need to get, you know, a potential public hazard out of the way, not necessarily, you know, a benefit to living in the city. And I think over, you know, at some time in the past, it was sort of viewed as a benefit. It was sort of viewed as a white glove service or something. And I'm just not sure it was ever financially set up to do that. And I'm not sure that, you know, I just don't think that's sustainable, to be perfectly honest. I think that's what we're finding out, right? And, you know, I will go a little bit further and say, you know, I don't know about accounting, but I do know this. I know that at one point in time we had 2 or 3 employees and an ambulance and a bunch of equipment, and we even bought some gear that we stuck down into a hole to make sure that it didn't collapse, to do these types of projects. And quite frankly, how you could do that on $200,000 a year, I can't even imagine. It's simply not possible, is my point. So, you know, we've been doing that by eating the cost for at least some period of time. And again, my only issue with that is the same one that the city attorney pointed out, which is, you know, if I'm collecting from everybody and I'm bestowing that benefit on your private property, you know, the word for that isn't insurance, it's socialism. It's really all it is just, hey, we're going to take up a collection and we're going to build this person a new sewer lateral. I'm not sure that that's what the legislature envisioned, and I'm not sure that it's a good idea, quite frankly. Like I said, I view it as a helping hand. I view it as something to, you know, and $3,500 seems to me a good start on a problem that could potentially run, you know, $5,000. If somebody wanted to pay me $3,500, you know, I'd come up with the rest. I know that's not the case for everybody, and it certainly, I know there's a lot of folks on fixed income and so on and so forth. I get all that, but you know, that's just my point of view on it. And again, you can't get away from the math. If it's a $3,500 repair, it's going to take you 70 years to contribute, right, to the city to pay that back. And that's just not, those numbers you can't get away from. With 2,000 houses and 70-year payback, there is no way we can run this program at full tilt for everybody involved unless the legislature authorizes us to take a lot more money. And look, 100 won't cover it. I can promise you. I can do that math in my head. You're going to have $300 or $400 or $500. And at that point, well, hell, if it's $500 a year, I'll just pay for my own sewer lateral. Well, yeah, that's effectively what you should be doing. I mean, that's effectively what we're doing anyway, folks. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, then.
Alderman Dibbitt.
Call the question.
Second.
You know what? I think we're ready anyway. So if we're done talking, do you mind if you want to withdraw that motion? We'll just go ahead to a vote.
Certainly.
Roger Dodger. And I think we've lost Alderman Wagey. So
Give him 10 seconds so that he can vote.
Well.
So we're trying to, he's logged in and just cannot see or hear anything. So Rick and Janet, are we close to getting him back on? He would like to vote on these items.
Brandon, can we hear you?
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll take the vote, and should it appear that Alderman Wiggy's vote would have made a difference, we can certainly have a revote at some point if he comes back. So Vote in favor is for adopting the resolution. A vote against is to not adopt the resolution and leave things the way they are, which is the 7250 as I understand it. Will you please call the roll?
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill, Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
No.
and Alderman Waggy.
And it doesn't appear that Brandon's vote would have made any difference, so I think we're all right there. All right, so item 10B is, Brandon will want to be around for this one.
Your Honor, may I make a motion, since we're having electrical difficulty, to move 10B to the end of the agenda?
Yes, that'd be fine. Is there any objection to that? No. Yeah, we don't even need to go for a full motion if we can do that by acclamation. If there's no objection, we will move 10B to whenever Alderman Waggy gets back or the end of the agenda.
Thank you.
10C is bill number 6234. Mr. City Attorney, could we have the second reading by title only, please?
6232, Your Honor.
Oh, sorry. What did I do? I'm sorry. 6232. Second reading by title only, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Second reading of Bill Number 6232, an ordinance approving an agreement with the Office of State Courts Administrator and amending Chapter 125 of the Code of the City of Brentwood relating to court costs in the municipal division.
Okay, synopsis, please, Alderman Kramer.
Your Honor, Bill number 6232 for the second reading talks about an ordinance authorizing an agreement with the Missouri Office of State Courts to implement the Show Me Courts automation software and impose a state-mandated court automation fee of $7 per court case. The ordinance addresses not only the automation fee, but also cleans up some code items for housekeeping that no longer fit within the recent statutes, case law, and court rules. Bill number 6232.
Your Honor, I'll make the motion to perfect Bill 6232 into ordinance form.
Second. It's been moved by Alderman Leahy, seconded by Alderman Dimmitt to perfect bill number 6232 into ordinance form. And before we start the discussion on this item, our esteemed judge is with us, and I suspect he's not here for his health. So if he would like to come share some information with the board, I'd give him the floor gladly.
Thank you, Mayor. The Supreme Court is mandating that all of the municipal divisions adopt the Show Me Court system. It's not something that I'm actually particularly fond of, but for lack of a better
They didn't
term,
ask you?
They didn't ask me. And one of the reasons I don't like it is because of what's in front of the board right now is the $7. So our court costs right now are $22.50, which are pretty reasonable court costs. They're actually lower than most of the municipalities around us. So now they're going to go to $29.50 if we want to maintain a municipal division here in Brentwood. And I hate to say it, I hate to act like there's no choice, but according to the Supreme Court, there's no choice. We can either do it or we can choose not to, and that's up to you guys. That's not up to me. I guess there's some benefits to the Show Me Court system. Transparency, I think, is what they push.
Unlike you, Judge Dimmitt, we are quite used to having things foisted upon us from Jefferson City. So,
I will. I would answer to the Supreme Court if they wanted my opinion. I would have given it to them, but they didn't. So there will be. I know that in the previous meeting, I was enthralled watching your previous meeting on YouTube, and I know Alderman Leahy had some questions about potential savings when it comes to Regis, and I do think there will be some savings.
Great.
I mean, this, other than training costs, this isn't going to cost us anything. The $7 comes in; it's just a pass through. It goes out. So we will have some savings as far as what we pay Regis for in the future. I can't tell you precisely how much that'll be, but I'm happy to
take a question or two if anybody has one.
If anybody has one, yeah. I'm
the
happy.
judge is all yours, board. Anybody care to have questions for the judge? We had Alderman Waggy for a minute, and we seem to have lost him again. So, all right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion on the motion to adopt the ordinance? Seeing none, a vote in favor is to adopt 6232. Will you call the roll, please?
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill, Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Wiggy.
He's going to symbolically vote no.
Bill number 6232 passes, and upon signature of the mayor becomes ordinance number 4869.
All right, thank you.
When it's printed.
Thank you for catching that. I'm so used to it. I don't even mention it.
That's like if they put Mayor Thornton, I answered to that. No problem. All right, under new business, item number 11. Let's see, 11A is, what is this,
Sanitation services,
is this a
Your Honor.
resolution? What is this? Resolution.
Without a
We
number.
don't have a resolution number?
1127.1.
Sorry, it's not on the agenda. So hold on, I've got to go into the detail here and dig it all out.
11A.
Yeah, all right, so here we go. Resolution number 1127.1. Alderman Kramer, do you have a synopsis of this?
I do, Your Honor.
Great.
A resident who utilized the valet trash optional services for years has requested a reduction in the fee structure so that he could resume valet trash service at a discounted rate. The resident asked if either a veteran or senior citizen discount was available, and there was also talk of mobility questions. The Sanitation Services Valet Services Discount 1127.1.
All right, I would like to start with the motion to adopt Resolution 1127.1.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Dimmitt, seconded by Alderwoman O'Neill. Any discussion on this resolution? Alderman Leahy.
If I may, Your Honor, I'd like to take my questions and direct them to Dan if I could, just to get some information up front. Dan, we ran the valet service, as we called it, pick up at the house, for $9 a month, and we charged that for 13 years.
Correct.
We then came to the Public Works Committee and we brought forward that the normal cost for comparable cities put us somewhere in the neighborhood of $22 to $30 per month.
Correct.
Committee voted unanimously to move it to the $22 figure to work with. And that was after your group did a study specifically of the York Woods area so that we got a good handle on time and costing. We established a reasonable fee of $22. This resolution offers to anyone that is 65 years of age and/or a medical note that says they're incapacitated, that they could drop their fee to $11.50 per month. Which begs the question why the city wishes to discount a service that we spent and realized that we were undercharging to get it to a reasonable service fee to at least cover cost, and now discount it. And if I'm not mistaken, under the 2010 census, the median age of the citizen of Brentwood is what age? 68, according to the United States Census. Thus, now, that only hits with the fact that you would have to have those people all wanting to do valet service, all wanting to come in and ask for a discount, and all wanting this to do. Right now, I think we're looking at maybe 22 to 26 homes.
Right now, there's only like 30 folks that are signed up for the optional services, be it, second weekly trash pickup, rear, which I refer to as valet, or they have 2 times where it's the rear.
To work.
Yeah, because I looked up, I was on the same track as you, and according to my resource that I looked up, it's a little over 8,000 residents are here, 8,055 per the 2010 census. 65 years and older would be roughly 902 residents, which is around 11% of the demographic. There's more people that are under 65. I don't even know if you could find data as far as, medical or any of that. I have no clue what that would be. I generated a generic form just as a draft, just how would that look? You know, how do you implement it? The people would have to come in, you'd have to post it on social media.
The other half is I think this starts us down a slippery slope. You're taking first you've moved your fees back to reasonable. Now you want to discount them because one person made a phone call saying, hey, can I get it discounted? Should I start asking all my other fees to be discounted? Now this board had the opportunity 2 years ago because a small business in the city of Brentwood was 1 day late on its license fee for its business and got hit with a $500 penalty because they were a day late. And we decided, no, there's no discount for being it. The man claimed he was out of town and didn't have a chance to get the check written. I think we're starting down the wrong road. I don't think it's heartless to say, no, there is no discount program in the city of Brentwood to cover this. And I would really like not to start this program with discounting.
Alderman Dimmitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This did come out of Public Works, and I think there may have been a little misunderstanding. I was the person who spoke with the 99-year-old World War II vet who served our country, and as a colonel, and he contacted me and said that he has to use a walker, and so he made use of this service for a number of years, and he took issue with the increase in the cost. And you know, I think sometimes we live in a bit of a bubble. We don't realize how a lot of other folks live. Okay. And if I'd known about this gentleman at the time and that we took this up originally, I would not have approved to increase it to 22 without some type of limitations. Based on my conversation that I had with him, and I know there are other folks in a similar position as this resident, my suggestion was let's see if we could cut it for these folks who have a medical condition, a true medical condition that keeps them from taking their trash to the curb. And most of these folks are going to be, I said, a lot of them I imagine are fixed income, so they could use the help financially. At the Public Works meeting, I pointed out the disability doesn't have to be a hearing. It has to be related somehow to mobility. And I thought that 65 was actually an insult to the folks who are 65 or 66 years of age. And I think there was a misunderstanding on that because to me, 65 is, what do they say, is the new 45. You know, I'm not sure that there are a whole lot of folks who are 65 that need help taking their, with this. So I was really focusing at the Public Works Committee more on people who have mobility issues and need help getting out there. I wasn't really that interested in the age.
Right.
Alderman Plewka.
Alderman Leahy, I just couldn't let the comment go. I looked up on Wikipedia, and according to wikipedia.org, the median age in the city of Brentwood as of 2010 is 35 years of age. 18% of our residents are under the age of 18. 8% are between the ages of 18 and 24. 37% are ages 25 to 44. 24% are from 45 to 64. And 12% of our population is 65 or older.
Of that, does you also look at homeowners that are that arrangement, please?
No, I didn't. But
this bill applies to those that are homeowners using this service. It does not apply to the teenager in high school that says, okay, because if I got a 12-year-old, we even asked that question at the committee, does it mean that the person has to be the only person, or if I've got kids in the house that disqualifies them? And we discussed it would be the homeowner.
I would challenge anybody to prove to me that the median age of a homeowner in the city of Brentwood is over 65 years of age. That the median age is somehow over 65. I mean, this is, and I echo Alderman Dimmitt's point. I think this is a fine exception to carve out, and I'm fully supportive of the bill.
Go for it.
Thank you.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
As possibly the only one over 65 on the Board of Aldermen, I would like to see that eliminated. If someone is older and has a medical condition, fine. Or perhaps if they're younger and have a medical condition. But I don't feel simply because I'm over 65, I'm entitled to a discount of if I needed it. So I would
make the motion.
Can I move to amend the motion to limit the discount to those with a medical disability?
Moved and seconded to amend the resolution to be limited to only those with a medical disability regardless of age. We're now discussing the amendment. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Alderman Sims.
I have clarification because it would also apply to the amendment. Sure. Homeownership isn't a requirement. It's just that you're head of household, right? Because Alderman Leahy seemed to implied that it was, but as I'm reading it here, I'm not, in order to be eligible for the service discount or in the discount, I don't have to own my home. It's enough that I live there. I'm the head of household, right? So renters are allowed, can avail themselves of this
I would
benefit.
think so, yeah.
Residents. Residents. Okay, sure. I think the accommodation is fine for if you've managed to make it to 65. I mean, God, I think it's a courtesy, and certainly if you have a disability that you can prove, I think it's as the daughter of someone who's 70 and has some walking issues, I think that this is a fine, and who struggles, by the way, to get her trash can to the door, but she lives in Creve Coeur. So I would oppose the amendment, and I support the resolution as is written.
I would just say the same thing, and I would also point out that the 65 limitation at least recognizes a higher percentage of people, of those who are on fixed income, and that this would be a greater benefit to them necessarily. I mean, I know there are people on fixed income who are less than 65, but the percentage goes up dramatically after that age. Thank you.
Alderman Leahy.
The question that I'd like to make sure that we're clarifying, when we do the valet service, that household would get it for the yard waste, the recycling, and the trash, or would this be just trash?
This is only the optional service. Currently, basic service, they don't get charged for regular trash. If it's curbside, they don't get charged for yard waste, and yard waste is at the curb.
Yard waste has never been valet.
Right.
So I have households that can get the yard waste down, can get the recycling down, but they have trouble with trash. And that's all that we're discounting is the trash side.
Yeah, because of the calls that I received, it was just the trash, that typically those recycling receptacles are heavy even when empty. If you have a 65 to 95 gallon tote, it could weigh probably 20 pounds empty.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But most of our 90 gallon trash cans that we've put out are from the public health group grants, and those are on wheels.
We don't provide trash, we provide recycling cards. Trash would be the homeowner's prerogative.
But didn't we also do the 96 gallon
years
containers
ago
that are on wheels?
Not anymore, but many years ago, you'll see a blackish, brownish one that says Brentwood, but
Okay.
not anymore.
Thank you.
The wheels make them useful as walkers, actually.
No, there are people that physically have limitations.
Like me.
And moving things is difficult. But it's not completely incapacitated to the point that, yes, in running this service of taking care of yard, recycling, trash, and just providing the basic service to our residents, even at $22, you're not excessive to work with. And we're headed down, in my opinion, a slippery slope that I just would like us not to do. But I think I'm in the minority in that opinion.
Any further discussion on the amendment? All right, we'll have a vote on the amendment. All in favor of adopting Alderwoman O'Neill's amendment, removing the 65-year-old requirement and focusing on just the medical conditions, if we're all understanding that language more or less, raise your hand in favor of the adoption. 1, 2, 3, and Alderman Wegge's still not with us. All opposed to the amendment, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the amendment will fail. So now we're back to the original resolution as presented. Is there any further discussion on that? I will just point out really quickly, the Census Bureau has a wonderful website that says that we have 370 veterans living in the city. We have 3% of our population that is disabled. And they actually, almost every question that was asked here tonight is available right here on the census data webpage. Anyway, for future reference. Any further discussion on the motion to adopt the resolution? Seeing none, we will have a vote. Let's see, does this involve money? It does involve money, so roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
No.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Alderman Weggie's still not with us.
He's on speaker, but.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think I can take your vote via phone. So that's all right. It wouldn't have mattered anyway, Brandon. Just for fun, Alderman Wiggy votes a provisional yes. All right.
If I may, for a point of order, since we have Mr. Wiggy back on the phone, but it does not look like we will be able to get him on the video. And because of that, state statute will not allow him to cast a vote. I would ask then that we possibly move resolution, the bill 6231.1 to the next meeting and allow Mr. Weggie to be present when we do this vote.
Mayor Thornton, Helmut would like to check that statement.
I think you can attend a meeting telephonically as well as by video under the Sunshine Law.
I don't believe you can. I think Kevin has given us this before, and I believe the rule is that he has to be able to see and view our faces in order to vote. So, but anyway, so the motion's been made. I didn't hear a second or anything.
I'll second that.
Okay, so the motion is to, and let me paraphrase if you would, to postpone the second reading of Bill.
Is it the second or the first?
Second.
Second.
Okay, 'cause
Second
it says
reading
first.
of Bill number 6231.1 until the next meeting, which would be, I believe, March 3rd? 4th. March 4th. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, so unanimously, we will postpone action on that until the next meeting.
Good. Did Brendan hear all that?
Brandon, did you hear that?
I just heard that it was postponed, yeah, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, technical difficulties, so. Unless you want us to proceed, well, no. We've already voted on it. We've already voted on it. You're out of luck, buddy. All right, that brings us to item number 12 on the agenda, which is citizens' comment. If there's anyone.
No.
11B.
Oh, 11B, I'm sorry.
Real estate of prison.
Oh, right, yes, this was added last minute. So let me take this one, if you will. So there are a number of appraisals that need to be done as part of the Manchester Road project. This is our cooperation with the MDOT. So in order to get the easements, the permanent construction easements and permanent easements, temporary construction easements and the permanent easements that we need to do the Manchester Road projects, we need to actually appraise the property. We need Dynan to get started on that project, and they've given us a bid for approximately $10,000 to do those appraisals, plus testify as experts in some of the valuation hearings that we've got going on that are related to the Manchester Road project as well. So the city administrator came to me at the last, actually it was just this afternoon, said, hey, is there any way we could put this on the agenda? I said, sure. So that's what this resolution is all about. It did not go on the consent agenda because it came so late. So I would like to start with a motion to adopt.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Leahy, seconded by Alderwoman Sims to adopt 1133. Is there any discussion? Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor, just a point of clarification. We've had an agreement with Dynan before that we've authorized and paid for. This is for additional properties.
Right. This is for this is for ones specifically related to the Manchester Road project, as opposed to the renewal, the flood control part. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call, please. The motion is to adopt 1133.
Alderman Dimmitt?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
And Alderman Wiggy.
He said yes. I heard him. Okay, very good. That brings us to item number 12, which is citizen comments. If there's anyone present who would like to come forward and address the board, you'll get at least 3 minutes to do that. Seeing none, we'll move right along to a motion to adjourn.
I move to we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? We stand adjourned. Bye, Brandon. Gone now.
Darn it.
You missed it. Yeah, oh yeah.
I've never been slammed on social media. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, who gets slammed on social media?
You are following that during this important
Am I getting slammed on next door right now?
Good news. The ordinance
What you
says
don't know
that the
won't hurt you.
$7 doesn't take effect until you put an order
Do
in.
you think I care? That's the most
I know when I did that, well, and,
to start collecting.